In my head, I kind of switched and had this mentality like, I've got to start treating this like a job, preparing, looking for samples, looking for cool references. You can't just like flick up the laptop on a Tuesday night and have an hour free and expect to write a banger. To be a successful artist, you've got to be obviously a good DJ, you've got to be a good producer.
Oh my God, there's so many things.
You've got to be active on social media.
Welcome to episode 17 of the Dojo podcast. Today's guest is one of the most important producers coming up in the UK today. I've been following him since 2022 and he has now got his best ever season in Ibiza ahead of him, playing at Joseph Capriati's Metamorphosis, Elro, and being a resident of Ants for a number of years now. Welcome, Grant Gordon from Us Two.
Hi, mate.
Obviously, we know each other for a long time. You've released on my label. We worked together at Dojo. But today, I really want to dig into your story because I think it's a textbook masterclass of how to build a career in house music. And it's really also a story that, you know, there's no such thing as overnight successes. Let's start out by you telling me a little bit about how you first got into music. Not specifically house music or electronic music, but just music in general. Like, what was your first awareness of tunes and like when did your love for music start?
I think, and super interesting thing to say straight away, was the first concert I ever went to. I was like 4 years old. Michael Jackson at Wembley. Straight in at the deep end. I can't really remember much, but all I can remember is they brought out a tank onto the stage when he did the Earth song. I was straight in at the deep end with Michael Jackson.
So your parents took you to that?
Yeah, went with my parents.
Was there a culture of listening to music in the household essentially, or like how did that come about?
My mum would always has and still does always has the radio on, and obviously when we were in the car when we were younger it used to be CDs as well, but we never had like my mum's always been really into music, but there was never sort of any like vinyl players or anything like that at home, right. But she literally always had the radio on.
When did the interest in electronic music start and like the interest in clubbing?
15 or 16. We always used to go on family holidays to Ibiza. Right. And my brother, who was a few years older than me, he's always been into house music. So I had an early sort of like intro to it, but sort of the commercially side of things. So I went to, I always remember like David Guetta's party, listening to his albums. And then when I was 16, so yeah, I just finished school, my brother took me to DC-10. So that was the first nightclub that I ever went to.
Tell me about that experience. Like how did that influence you?
At the time, I just didn't get it. I literally hadn't got a clue what was going on. All I remember was the bass just coming in and out, just not understanding it at all. But I remember Tanya Vulcano was playing.
One of the OGs of DC-10, there from the very beginning when it was just a little finca at the end of the runway and people would go there for like the afters on Monday. Which tune did she play?
Basement Jaxx, Fly Life Extra. Like that, like the horn that comes bam, 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 bam. We've been in there a couple of hours, and like I said, the first couple of hours was like, what's going on? And then that happened, and I think it had one of the old when people used to do the sit downs on the terrace,
right?
And everyone used to sit down, and then like I was just thinking, like, what the fuck is going on in this place? And then that comes in, and the place just erupted, and I thought I still didn't get it, but then I thought, yeah, this is madness. This is really cool, yeah. But a few years, like, again, it still progressed after that. 17, 18, my brother would take me out again. One of my first memories was watching Luciano play at Ushuaia. He was playing, again, similar to like the DC-10 and obviously Circo Loco's music I'd never heard before in my life. And then when I went and watched him like a year or two later, he was playing obviously like this kind of Latin, South American influence, like groove. And I just remember seeing him walk from one side of the DJ booth with a glass of wine in his hand. And like, he was just playing this like groovy music. And I just thought, yeah, he's some boy. I don't know what's going on. Like, but I can tell he's a cool bastard.
He's just looking relaxed and looking like he's enjoying himself, basically.
Yeah. But I seem to kind of like click with that music a little bit more. Again, I was maybe a year older, so that's obviously has a bit of an influence. But I just remember thinking, this is really nice music.
I found it really interesting that your parents used to take you on family holidays to Ibiza. So they obviously didn't go for the music. They just thought, like, we're going to go to Spain, right?
I think my brother influenced them to let us.
I was wondering whether your brother's behind that going like, hey, why don't we do family holiday in Spain? And then like planning to sneak off essentially, you know, and throw you in the deep end as well. So was your brothers, I assume that your brother's love for house music started before Ibiza.
Yeah, he always used to DJ at home. He had some decks at home. They were the first ones I ever sort of jumped on and I ever played on. But I remember you saying then about parents. I remember there was one story where my mum and my dad dropped us to DC-10, and as they in like the hire car, they dropped us both there. This must have been the first year that I went. My mum said she's seen somebody getting staggered out and going into an ambulance, and she's just started panicking, thinking, oh my God, I've just let him take him in there as well. And then all these people are mumbling out.
Yeah, I mean, like, you know, like when you're a parent, I can imagine letting your adolescent sons basically sort of loose, and then basically going into the whole underground club world is... You got to have faith in your upbringing, basically. You got to have a faith in your parenting, because like... they're out there on their own, and like your controller's gone, you know, and there's all sorts of temptations around. Okay, that like it's super interesting. You know, that really resonates with me actually, Grant, because like it was my older brother that introduced me to electronic music as well, way before I actually could go out. And like I would hear the stories. I would, like back then he would bring cassette tapes back, because in my days it was cassette tapes, you know, like when I was in my teens. So he would bring cassette tapes back that he would buy from the DJs, and then I would just listen to those, you know. And like when I was 17, I was like, I'm going. Like I couldn't wait to go and delve into that world. And then the first time I went and really like sort of went proper clubbing and to a proper techno nightclub, like hard trance at that time in Germany. I was just like, that was it. Like, and for me it was the sounds, right? Like I'd never heard electronic music like that before, where like you know, like I couldn't put a name to it, but synthesizer sounds, like electronic sounds, was just like mind-boggling to me. I was like, wow, like these sounds sound amazing, like the sonics of it, you know. So yeah, I really relate to that. Like older brothers are tried and tested route for getting into electronic music. And then talk me through how you then first got an interest in DJing, because I assume that came before music making.
Yeah, so when my brother had gone to university, he left his decks at home. I naturally jumped on them, and then me and my friend started running a party in our home city, Coventry. And it just, we kind of thought, well, it would make sense if I played.
But how quick did you go from I'm DJing on brothers' decks before like, now I've got to start my own party?
Not long. Probably actually, I would probably say I didn't DJ at the first party that we did. I don't think I DJ'd. It was just freshly turned sort of like 18, and it was like, listen, we should.
But I want to dig into that a little bit, because like I know a lot of people that got into DJing, right? Because we like at uni, that's where we all got into DJing, and there's a bunch of people who were just always taking turns on the decks and stuff like that, and we were buying records, but we didn't think of promoting our own parties. I think that's quite a brave step. Like, how did you get to like, we've got to put on our own party?
It originally started in school. Well, they call it like sixth form in the UK. It's kind of like college, so it's like 16 to 18. And you were allowed to have every like term, there was like it was literally called the sixth form party. So everybody in those 2 years of school, they would go to this like a party at a club within the city. And then when we were in year 2 of that college sort of era, we were allowed to organise the events. So then we put a couple of them on, but I think we did one, and I didn't DJ at that. I think we had the guys who were the year older than us come back in to DJ, And then it was kind of like, well, there's no point letting these older lot DJ. And then at that point, I was like, well, yeah, I could give it a whirl, practicing on the decks at home. But then it was the CDJ 1000, so I was dreadful. I couldn't do it at all. But then I bought Serato, linked Serato into the back of the CDJs and put the controller CDs into Serato. And then I was just able to use my own sort of library of music that was on my laptop.
Right.
And it just kind of snowballed from there, really. That was officially the school parties. Then we left school and we kind of had this reputation of being the people that threw the parties before we officially even knew what a promoter was, or even knew kind of like...
basically just peer pressure. When is the next one going to be?
Yes, yeah. And then it kind of, post-finishing school, it was like the music, everyone started then going to clubbing and started going into raving. So then we evolved into this era, new kind of taste for music, which was like the progressive house stuff, kind of like early Swedish house mafia. I think if you listen back to their Warehouse Project set from maybe 2010, that sort of era, 2010, 2011, when they played there, where it's quite tribally, but quite progressive as well. Nothing like what they are now, or nothing even what they were like 10 years ago. People they were kind of like the not the cool DJs, because obviously the underground world still existed, but they were doing multiple nights at Pacha in Ibiza and bits like that as well. So
very big name at the time.
Yeah, them, Eric Murillo, that sort of like tribally house sound, the subliminal stuff. Yeah, which, to be honest, I still play loads of that now.
Dude, I was like this is how I got really into house, like subliminal ruled supreme. Obviously, Eric Murillo, controversial figure in the scene, you know, due to all of the stuff that came out about his behavior. But Subliminal for a long time was really like, you would buy every record blind, basically, you know. And there's so many, like, you know, Harry Romero, obviously still around, absolutely done of a producer, you know, and he really built a very strong ecosystem, Murillo, around like his label, and very influential, you know. A lot of American house, basically, that then kind of started dying down, like obviously due to his addiction issues and stuff like that. Like he kind of took the foot of the accelerator with Subliminal, but for a time he was very, very present, especially in Ibiza, you know.
I remember when I was my first trip to Ibiza with friends. So I would have been 18, and I went to a Subliminal sessions at Pacha, and that was just like, because prior, obviously, well, we've gone on the family holidays. I've been like out with my brother, but to just be completely transparent, I wasn't partying as we know it. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. I wasn't like, you know what I mean? And then I was there with my friends, and then I was at Subliminal sessions, and I was just like, wow, this is like, that just blew my head away. I think it was on Wednesday night. Good music, just good timeless, ain't it? It's still now. I still play a lot of the music now, and it sounds amazing in my set. So
yeah, it sounds fresh still. Like a lot of those guys like on that label are still doing bits as producers, especially Harry Romero had like a whole second lease of life to his career.
He's just done a mix down for my next. I've got a release in August with Archie Hamilton on Danny Howard's label, Nothing Else Matters. And Danny Howard was like to me, he's like, it's a proper rolling, like, it's got that guitar bass, nice build-ups and stuff. And Danny Howard was like, Harry Romero will be perfect for the mixdown. I was like, he does mixdowns? He was like, yeah. I was like, give me his details. 100%. He was like, he doesn't do them for everyone. You kind of like got to know him a little bit. And then I was like, cool, well, that's my goal for the end of the year, to worm my way in with Harry Romero to get him.
So Danny patterned it up, basically.
Sounds really, really good as well. Like, really good. I'm buzzing for that one to come out, yeah.
That's really cool. Kind of full circle moment for you, right? Like, to be working with people who were really dominant on a label that gave you your kind of first taste of house music in Ibiza is awesome. Okay, and did you ever have a plan, like, in regards to your career? Because, like, you know, now, like, you know, we're seeing, you know, like, we're at the stage now where you, like, you know, maybe in your late teens, early 20s, and, you know, you're doing your own party. Like, you know, I remember you telling me before that, like, the party sort of the promoting thing became quite serious. Like, tell me more about that.
Yeah, so the I was at university age, and the party that we were doing in our home city was basically selling out every party for kind of 3 years. I think we were doing them maybe every 6 weeks, 8 weeks. Yeah, it's consistently selling out. Really, really cool parties, good clubs. We had like a regular one, it was like a 300 cap club. And then on bank holidays, we like the national holidays, we would do the bigger clubs in the city. One year we had Pete Tong playing.
How did you know what agents to approach and all of that kind of stuff, and like working out venue fees and like, cause like, how do you navigate all of that, like without anybody guiding you?
Instagram was big, but it wasn't as influential as what it is now. And obviously TikTok didn't exist. Twitter was a thing. We used to do most of our kind of promotion on Twitter, ironically, but it was, as cringy as it sounds to say, it was all about the music. So we would be like, we would have the big people that, you know, like the Steve Angelos and their record label, or like, wow, we even booked Frankie Rosado. We would be going for like the people that are just releasing on labels, maybe their second or first releases on like these big, on like Defected, Subliminal, or say like Steve Angelo's Size Records.
And would you just go on the artist's Instagram and see like who's the agent or whatever, and then just contact them? Okay.
So that's how there was none of this sort of social media influence. It was whoever's music that you liked, you would then book them purely just because they've just had an EP on there. So it kind of, we were, again, like I said, we were spending money, but it wasn't like thousands of pounds. You know, we were spending a bit, but it was literally all about the music. People were coming because they trusted the music quality and they trusted the night. But in regards to say my kind of plan of it, how the parties always used to happen, my brother would play first, the opening slot. Then I would, because he always had like a bit of a deeper, more underground taste. And then he would play the opening slot, I would play second, and then whoever we booked would play third. And then the last hour, I would always play back to back with whoever we booked. And then I was like, every time I was playing, obviously you're full of tequila and party, and in your head you're thinking, I'm as good as these guys that we're booking from all around Europe.
You're holding your own, basically.
Yeah, it's a really good back to back. So then I'm thinking, well, how are they from Spain and we're booking them? Or how are they from Germany and we're flying them over to the UK? They're making music, I wasn't. So I was kind of like a big fish in a small pond of Coventry. So it was like I needed to try and branch out, and I wanted to start playing in other cities and obviously in other countries as well. So that led into music production.
Okay, awesome. I mean, look, it seems like a really natural progression. One more thing about like working things out, like it kind of really, I find it super interesting that you kind of just went for it, you know, and it's like figuring things out as you go along, you know, because sometimes you think like, oh, like, what do I even offer like a DJ, right? Like, well, you offer what you can afford, right? And then they either say yes or no, do you know what I mean? And maybe next time if they say yes immediately, you go a little bit lower until somebody says no, and then you go a little bit higher. And like, sometimes I think we tend to overthink how much knowledge we need to create our own scene and start our own scene. And like a lot of people that I know that have gone on to build like the biggest careers have always done all of it, right?
Yeah.
They've always done the label, they've always done the events, and you know, then they're building up their own profile as artists, and it's the three things together that then build a brand that becomes bigger than themselves, and that then allows them to go onto the international stage and really start being somebody influential.
I think as well, it's like, even for me now in this sort of like early stage of my career, when I was getting booked by people that are relatively new in their promoting sort of career, where it's these smaller clubs that it's like they're a bit of a nightmare to deal with. You get picked up in the back of a really small car, you're crammed in, but you can tell that the guys that have, the 2-3 lads that are doing the party, they've all chipped in their wages. They're absolutely buzzing to make the party happen. And yeah, things are a bit of a nightmare being organised, but when you get there, you know it's going to be a good party. I feel like they're super, super important because it's grassroots, ain't it? It's sort of like
I always encourage people who are starting out and building their own scene. Like, I want to give a little anecdote on that. Like, I got once booked in Wellington in New Zealand, you know, off the back of an Australia tour. And it was this called Club 101 in Wellington. Very small club. And as you said, exactly what you described, you know, picked up by like, you know, a young dude in a small car, and all of the guys were like in their 20s and promoting and stuff like that. And they just started a club because there was nothing going on in Wellington, and they just went in for the pure passion of the music. And all of the youth in the town was just like, yeah, we love this. We love what you're doing. And then 2 years later, I played at a festival, which they promoted. And, you know, they had Dennis Salter headlining, and like, you know, the Black Madonna was supposed to play. She never made it because it was literally just, COVID was literally just starting. And literally I told the guys their festival was like the last festival on earth, of course, before everything shut down. So Black Madonna was like, nah, I'm not coming because of COVID, basically. But like, you know, and I've seen like people building up a scene from the grassroots to like festival level. And really, you know, I always love supporting these kind of smaller promoters because you never know where they're going to get to. You know, some of them do it for a couple of years and then they quit, and then they just, you know, it's just a phase of their life. But some of them keep going, you know?
Yeah.
And the ones that keep going are usually the ones that are going to be the big decision makers 10, 15 years down the line, you know, that can really change a career if you have a relationship with them. Would you ever consider going back into promoting as part of your career and having an events brand again?
Yeah, definitely. I'm doing a pop-up. Well, it'll happen by the time the podcast comes out, but I'm doing a pop-up in Liverpool next week just to help promote my next release. And I'm starting to get some of the same little like feelings, little butterflies in my tummy about that, just because you get that excitement and / nerves. I definitely think as my profile grows, I will do it. I think it's important. I think you kind of have to build, I don't know, for me, it just seems there's two caliber of artists. You kind of get these ones that are like, they'll plod along and they'll play other people's parties, and their fee, their branded, their profile will stay consistent at like a good level. And for some people, that's absolutely fine. Like they're happy, they make a decent living, they make a good sort of a reputation for themselves in that. But anybody that you think of that's like up there, they've got a big label, or they're doing parties, like, I don't know what, not necessarily residencies everywhere, but you know, they're doing events often. So I think it's a natural progression, but you kind of have to be, now with the age that I am, it's kind of like you have to be doing it when your profile's at the right level. You can't just be naive and start promoting events to people 10 years younger than you that they have no connection with. Do you know what I mean? You've got to create the demand as well.
You got to create the demand, and then like, you know, but I think like your skill set of having done it before is going to serve you well, basically, you know. And like at some point, it's just like you just work together with promoters. You get a brand fee essentially, and then like you just do your night with a certain promoter, and it's branded as, you know, whatever it is, you know. But yeah, like, I mean, all of my friends that have kind of made it big at one point, or are still promoters, you know, and still put events on, is a very, I mean, it's a 360 degree component of like it's a component of a 360 degree brand. So now we are into like your early production career, and like when I did some research on you, and you know, looking at your Beatport and stuff like that, because I became aware of you around 2022 from a record called Fashion Week, which came out on Seven Dials, I think, Seb Zito's label. Big tune. And like instantly I was like, this guy's dope. I think I contacted you, asked if you wanted a release on my label. You said yes, and then like we've patented up and you lined it up. But you know, like having checked you out, like, you know, again for the interview, just like I want to know if I know everything that there is to know about Grant. And having known you for a long time, I was actually surprised to see that you'd started producing like way back in like 11 years ago, 2015. So like it's not like an overnight thing. You've been at it for quite a while. So Tell me a little bit about how you got into production and like how your journey has like progressed as a producer.
Like I said earlier, it's kind of that, it was that natural progression when you want to start getting booked outside parties that you're organising or parties outside your city. It's the natural step to sort of grow your profile. I think especially like now, there's maybe kind of 2 or 3 DJs I can think of at the minute that are just purely DJs and not producers that have broken through. And I would say that's
very rare.
Yeah. And if now I would kind of say that's propped up by their social media presence rather than just their DJ skills. But yeah, so I started making music, like you say, 12, 13 years ago. Completely different style to what I make now. Kind of like that, like I said, tribal, progressive, housey stuff. But then it evolved and changed. 2017, we started first getting decent support. Marco Carola was playing our music at Amnesia, which was crazy. But interestingly, he was playing that before I even knew how to EQ properly. I didn't really understand like that side of the music productions or anything. So that it was bubbling away, building
Marco's
and building.
known for picking up on producers really early. Yeah. He started picking up on me like really, really early. Like I'm, very what I thought at the time were like not amazing productions, but good enough. But he must have seen something in them.
It's the rawness, I think, isn't it, that kind of draws him to those styles.
The rawness. Yeah, that's it.
So that was 2017, 2018 maybe. COVID happened. And I had an idea of like Musicon was a big influence on my style. 2020 happened, lockdown, and I remember I did a one-on-one like Zoom. It might not have been Zoom then, I'm not too sure. Zoom kind of call with Anotr,
right.
the Dutch duo Anotr, and that was like I think I paid like €100, and it was like a 90-minute call or an hour.
You
call,
wouldn't get them
like
at that price ever again, basically. Yeah.
No, literally. And they kind of convinced me to switch from Logic to Ableton because they said about Ableton was its own huge company. They're constantly investing in updating and developing, whereas Logic was a tiny part of Apple. So the sort of experience of it was a little bit, not as good as Ableton's.
Makes perfect sense, actually. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not a priority for Apple to keep pushing that product, right? So that made a big difference in your production process?
Like day and night difference. It took me a couple of weeks to kind of wrap my head around Ableton because it's a new project, but I did it very quickly because you kind of the same stuff, just in a different layout, different place, and how things are set up. But obviously with COVID on, you wasn't even allowed out of your house, so you had hours making music. So I was probably making every 2 days a new track. And it wasn't not necessarily stuff that you could play out, or it would sound like I would say good in clubs, but it's kind of it was you're learning. Do you know what I mean? That was your going through the motions of building out records and coming out the back of early 2022, I found like I'd found my kind of sound a little bit. And then I think that was when that EP got picked up by TSZR. So that was 2022.
How did you find your own sound? How did you find your signature sound? This is one of the main things that people always ask us. They're like, I like lots of different things. Like, I'm proficient at making music, but I don't think I have a sound. Like, how did you find your signature sound?
I kind of clicked onto using reference tracks in my production sort of journey or production techniques quite early. And I just found myself that I kept kind of going to the same artists for their seeing how Butch was making his records, seeing how Harry Romero was making his records. Yes, I will admit that my style changed. Kind of like if you listen to the EP that say like blew me up or got my head above the water was the one on EastEnders, which was completely different to what I make now.
Big EP. Everybody played that.
Yeah, it was a good one. But again, it's like I play the a cappella of the lead track in my sets now, but like musically,
Well, what's your name?
yeah, it just doesn't fit. Doesn't
Where
fit
did
in my
that
style.
come from, that a cappella? It's so
Can't
iconic.
remember. I can't remember. There was some drama with it as well, with the copyright in the end.
Really?
About 2 years after. I can't remember where we found it.
Such a great track, man.
It was a good one, wasn't it? And but yeah, with the signature sound, I think it's just kind of like what music you play, what music you find yourself listening to, and the same people that you go back listening to, that's naturally going to be what will become your signature sound, and what you enjoy making as well. Because I think if you try and force yourself to follow trends, you're on a downward slope already.
I always teach that in dojo. It's so important. It's like, don't look at the charts. Don't look at what's successful. Trust your own taste. I always tell the story that, like, when I first started out DJing, I always listened to Pete Tong Essential Selection, not Essential Mix, but the Essential Selection, which was his show on the was it Saturday night or Friday night? I can't remember.
Friday nights, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah. But I would listen to that, and you always have the tune of the week, basically, right? And I would go out and religiously buy that on vinyl, like, as soon as I knew what the tune of the week was. And quite often I didn't even like it, but like, I had this thing in my head that I was like, well, I'm just starting out. This is a super successful, well-known DJ that's touring the world. He must know better than me, basically, And it's only when I started just going from my own tastes, where like, no, I like this, I like that. And I wasn't looking at the charts anymore. Obviously sometimes you take charts and you just take you listen to some charts and see if you can find some gems in other DJs' charts. That's fine. But don't go buy something that you're not 100% into, and you're just buying it because they've charted it. Just go by what you like. And then, it's a process from then, like, referencing, and like, I always go try to find the influences of that artist that you're really into. So who's the number one artist that you're into? But actually go one layer deeper. What are their influences? Try to find interviews, try to find anything where they talk about what shaped them as an artist, and then you can tap into the same sources that they have. You're not just sort of regurgitating what they do, but you can getting the same sources of inspirations that they have, and then that can lead to your own sound. Not easy for a young artist to kind of find an identity. What would you say were your biggest challenges like in your production journey, and how did you solve them?
I think for a time period, it was probably I would say maybe actually dedicating the time to be able to finish music, as in the balance of life. Like, again, still going out partying, you're trying to network, and then you're trying to live a life with family, friends, partners, whatever. And then it's like this idea of, when am I actually going to finish this music? How can I?
Consistency of showing up, essentially.
Yeah.
Right. How did you solve that?
I kind of developed this technique. It was kind of like a bit of like a 10-hour kind of like rule. I would spend a bulk period of time at the weekends, so like a morning or an afternoon on a Saturday or a Sunday, getting the sort of initial part of the track done. So like, I don't know, now I guess it would maybe class pre-arrangement, that sort of main loop built and built out. Then I would then use the evenings within a week to spend an hour to 2 hours working and finishing on that track. So then by the time it was like Friday the next week, I would either have the track finished, but then if the track wasn't finished, I would leave it there and kind of like draw a line under it. So then that's where the kind of like the 10-hour rule would come in, because it was like I'd be spending anywhere from 4 to 6 hours at the weekend on it, and then an hour a week in the night to take me close to 10 hours after work, after gym, to just kind of like get it finished. If I couldn't get it finished in that 10 hours, then I felt like I'm forcing it, and your ears naturally get like bored of an idea. It
becomes stale, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like you kind of lose the sense of whether it's really any good or not.
And I still follow that 10-hour rule now, where it's like, now I'm lucky enough that with touring, I can spend more time doing music at home. Like today, I've just had a bulk of a day doing a track and it's nearly done. But then I'll make sure to not spend, like tomorrow, I'm making music, but I won't do that same idea. I will start a fresh idea tomorrow, and then throughout the week in the evenings, or like when I'm playing in Barcelona on Saturday, on the plane to Barcelona, I'll finish one of the tracks. So you got an extra 2 hours there. So I still implement that kind of 10-hour rule now. Now, if I don't get it done in those 10 hours, I put it into like a folder on my laptop and call it like a ready for collabs. So if anybody reaches out and says, have you got any ideas? Let's work on something together.
Amazing.
I've got that. I can just draw to it. And
so nothing gets wasted, basically.
Yeah. But I think the main thing that was kind of a big mentality switch to me, I remember reading The War of Art, by Stephen Pressfield.
Yes,
and that was
one of my absolute favorite books.
Great
I
book.
Always recommend for everybody to read it. What did you get out of it?
Just this kind of idea that it was like there is going to be things there is going to be things pushing back and resisting against you from doing music, and it was like I kind of switched
things inside of you, basically.
Literally anything, and then it was in my head. I kind of switched and had this mentality like, I've got to start treating this like a job if I want it to become my job. So I had to be showing up every day, even if it was an hour a night. I had to be dedicating time purely at the weekend and a bulk period of time to do it. I had to be preparing, looking for samples, looking for cool references before I start. You can't just like flick up the laptop on a Tuesday night and have an hour free and expect to write a banger. Treating it like a job before it became a job, that was the sort of phrase that stuck into my head.
It's a really great system to give yourself a deadline toward like, as we all know, deadlines work like magic, right?
Yeah.
Like everything gets like, you always kick the can down the road when you have infinite time, but if you give yourself a deadline, it's got to be finished by then. But then also having this thing to like let it go at that point if it doesn't come together and says like, yeah, I'm going to leave this for now. That's also really cool because like sometimes I've battled with tracks for like 3-4 weeks and they almost never turn into anything good, like I'll end up finishing them, but by the time they're finished I'm like, oh my god, thank god that is done, and like I don't even send them to anybody because it's just not good enough.
Yeah.
But the ones that come together real quick, they're always the ones that sort of seem to resonate the most. Where did you hear about the book The War of Art? Because this is one of my favorites. I always recommend this.
I think it was on a podcast.
Might have been me talking about it.
Maybe. It was.
I've been evangelical about spreading the word about this book, like I talked about it, like I got Josh Baker onto it, I got Ray Mono onto it, I got a bunch of people onto this book, and it's kept changing lives, basically.
When did you do the podcast with Josh Baker? Because it might have been that.
That was during COVID.
Maybe it was that. Maybe,
just early COVID was the first one. I mean, like I've recommended this book to so many people. There's actually a picture of Stephen Pressfield here on my wall in my studio because I consider him a mentor, and I follow him on Instagram, and I wrote to him on Instagram. I said like I wrote, "Dear Sir," because like he was like really like, somebody that I look up to, right? And I was like, and I just wrote to him like, if I hadn't come across this book, I would have been lost. It changed my life. It gave me like the inner drive and confidence to follow through with my dreams. I just thanked him, right? And he never wrote back, but he followed me back on Insta.
Nice.
I was just like, man, that's a cool little endorsement. You know what I mean? Like that really made my day.
Have you?
I saw that he read it. I saw like seen, and then he followed me back.
That's enough. To be seen was enough there in that one. Have you ever read Rick Rubin's book, The Creative Act?
That's a real gem because, like people talk about Rick Rubin as a producer, but he doesn't produce anything.
Yeah.
Like he is just an artist whisperer, I call him, right? Like he will literally he'll just talk to you. He'll just hang out and talk to you, and he'll get the best out of you, basically, and he'll get you thinking about creativity in a different way,
Like a guru, ain't he? Like a
absolute guru. The amount of people that he's worked with, obviously I'm exaggerating a little bit. He started out absolutely as a producer because he produced Run DMC's album. He was programming those drum machines, so he knows how to do that. But for a long time now, he hasn't been like a hands-on producer, like on the mixing console, like engineering. He's got people for that, basically, in Shangri-La studios in California. But he's just like, he just usually just lies barefoot with his belly out, like chilling out, like at the back of the studio, just listening to tunes. And then he goes like, yeah, do a little bit more like this and go like that, and he gets the best out of people.
Don't he?
Yeah, no, he's amazing man. And thinks about creativity like in a really different way, and I think it's really, really good. He always says, don't make music for the audience, just make music for you. That's going to be your best work if you make it for you.
Yeah, definitely. There was one thing he said in his book. It was kind of like this idea of like warming up to your music, and it was like warming up to your creative sort of like process. And I thought, that's mad. Like, obviously you can't just walk out your front door and run a marathon. Like, you have to train to do it. You have to warm up even to just go for a run. And like, this creative part of your brain has to be treated as the same way. And like, there's no way you can just go to a day at work and then come home, flick up your laptop and expect to be able to just write amazing music. Like,
super interesting. And this is why, like, I guess you do all the preparation, right? Looking for samples and stuff like that. What's your process there to look for gems?
I'm constantly listening to music at home now, whether like Sophie's cooking or we're out like whatever in the car. I rarely listen to house music in a relaxed environment at home. I'll put on, like, last week we were eating in the garden and we had on like a Cafe Del Mar chill out album. That's the kind of closest to like house music I'll get. But I'm normally listening to like Fela Kuti, jazz, kind of anything with a groove, but not necessarily like 4x4 groove. So I'm always screenshotting stuff, and then I just go down a rabbit hole of like, oh, okay, I like this Fela Kuti track. Who else did he work with? What other albums has he got? And then I just go down this rabbit hole of like finding bits.
Yeah, him and his band are the Kings of Groove.
I would have loved to seen them. Like,
oh my God, like he had this house in Lagos in Nigeria. And he would perform there every day in his house. And it was just like club/house, essentially,
nice.
With his 27 wives that he had.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
27 wives.
Busy man.
But a man was an absolute genius. Like the tunes, like the funk, like I can really tell in your music that you have those influences. I can really, really tell. It has that organic kind of live feel when you kind of sample that kind of stuff. And you, like, when people go outside of the genre of house music to look for influences, I think that's always when the magic happens, like I'm really influenced by like 90s hip hop, late 90s hip hop, so I'm always like in breakbeats in my track. Even if it's a 4 to the floor beat, I always like to have a breakbeat running in the background to kind of give it that kind of groove. And obviously, like, sort of 80s and 90s hip hop vocals became really trendy in the last couple of years, and lots of people have used them. But to me, that was music to my ears, because, like, all of a sudden I would hear people like Ruse doing like Public Enemy, like re-edits, and I love that like a general, like, because I remember all of those tracks when they came out, like, that's how old I am, 80s, 90s, and to have a whole new generation that, like,
what's that one that Sydney Charles has just done a re-edit of it's a re-edit of Masters at Work. It's that one that goes, the jam is fresh, and then it goes, it's like a proper hip hoppy beat on top of what Sydney Charles, and it's like trending all over TikTok now. I think the delay, it's not come out. I think it might be something to do with they're trying to clear it from Masters at Work, but that Masters at Work have obviously sampled it from an old 90s, 80s hip hop track. They sampled it, and now Sydney Charles has sampled them sampling that, and it's like,
and that's legitimate, because you can give a sample a new lease of life like 20 years later, 25 years later. It's not just, oh, somebody's done it, you can never touch that again, basically. You know, some of the biggest records I made were inspired of other people's samples, right? So like my record French Plan came out on my own label, went to number 2 in the house charts on Beatport. Like only like Purple Disco Machine was on number 1. He wasn't going to go anywhere. A couple of million fans in the world, but like I was like really up fighting it out there with them. But that record came together by me being really interested in French house and my love for French filter house, right? And I was researching French filter house, and then, obviously, I know about like all of the early Daft Punk stuff that was before there were Daft Punk. It was called Le Nightclub. So this was like Guy Emmanuel Omen, Christo, and projects. I think Bang Alta might have been involved in some of those as well. And they did a bunch of 12 inches under the name Le Nightclub. It was called Le Nightclub in terms of like a night rather than the night,
Yeah.
like a night on horseback, Le Nightclub.
Yeah.
And the track was there was a track called Boogie Shell, and I just really loved the sample. And then went on who sampled who is this? It was Sister Sledge, which is like Nile Rodgers production, right? And I was like, okay, cool, like I'm gonna sample that as well,
Yeah.
But then I gave it like a different twist, and it's like, having these influences that are like go beyond what's in the Beatport charts now. That's how you make bangers, right? Like going back to the past, like pulling something out of this genre, pulling something out of that genre, finding an obscure sample, And I always encourage everybody to do that and just look in places where others aren't looking,
I had it with, you remember the Davide Squillace song? I can't remember the name of the song, but I can hear the sample. The like it's a clear like an African fella in it that he's sampled. He goes, "Are we doing boom?" Well, I can't remember the name of it. It was a great track, but I literally did that. I searched who did Davide Squillace sample, and it was again a band similar to like the Fela Kuti era, and then I just went down the rabbit hole of them and just.
Yeah, and you can use the same sample. You can find a different sample from that band. It's just a kicking off point for you, for your creativity, basically. Like I love that, man. Like, and I can really tell in your music that you go the extra mile. Like almost everybody that I know that's a great producer and that's built a career is a music nerd, right? And they have a lot of curiosity about other genres other than just house music, you know what I mean? Like that's what sort of sets them apart, and and they'll go digging in jungle. Like, Enzo is like really into jungle, like Enzo Siragusa, one of my friends, and like always references old jungle tracks. And Paul Wolford is like a big jungle guy as well, you know what I mean? And also even using older instruments, Coulter. It's really about like the old Roland groove boxes, and like looking for sounds and places where other people aren't looking, And I always go like, hey, don't go on Splice. Nothing against Splice. Like sometimes when you need a quick sample and you can just look it up by key, great. But also know that if it's a good sample, like it's been rinsed, like a lot of other people would have already discovered that and also used it, so like going to different places and walking the less trodden path, I would say, is just super, super valuable. Okay, I want to get into some quick fire stuff. What are your top 3 tips for up and coming producers?
Firstly would be invest in your music making space as such. So firstly, that would, in my opinion, it would be your laptop. And the reason I use a laptop rather than a computer at a set place is it allows you to then make music wherever you are in your home. If you're traveling around, if you've got a job where you're commuting to work every day, you've got your laptop with you where you can. That's your studio. You're not fixed to one abode. You can, like I did for years, you can fall asleep in bed making music. And then obviously off the back of that, my second tip would be, well, I guess maybe we can throw it in with the first one, would be invest in a good pair of headphones.
Right.
Because you might spend thousands of pounds on a set of speakers, but then your bedrooms or your studio space isn't going to be professionally treated unless you want to spend £4,000-5,000 to get your room treated. Spend £500 on a good pair of headphones or £1,000 on a better pair of headphones, and then you can make music wherever you want, but then also you've got these headphones on that will allow you to hear everything properly and correctly. I'm not talking Apple AirPods where they turn the bass up loads. I'm talking like go out, research, proper studio headphones. Because even if you spend £1,000, say for the sake of this conversation, £500 on a headphones, they're going to sound better than £2,000 speakers in your bedroom that is not professionally treated. And you're then limited to where you have to make music, because you've got to make it at the desk with these big speakers you've just spent money on. And then you can't carry on making music after 8 o'clock at night because everybody in the house is winding down. Or if you live in an apartment block, you're going to be waking up your neighbors next door. Invest in your laptop, make that spend money on that, and your headphones as well.
And then what would you say is trip number 2?
Don't follow trends. Don't follow what's popular in Beatport now is what was being made 6-8 months ago. Just because you like Prosper's new song, you're not going to be Prosper. The Prosper because that's their own sound. Yes, take inspiration from him. Yes, listen to them, but don't just try and recreate. The amount of times you see people use the same synth that East End Dubs has been playing, or the same bass line that Gaskin's been using. It's like, they've made that. That's their
signature sound. You can never recreate that same success again by just following in their footsteps. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You've got to do your own thing. Okay, tip number 3.
Dedicate the time to your music. You have to make sacrifices. You have to find this balance of going to parties to network, but then you also have to have a fresh head so you can go home and flick up your laptop on Sunday afternoon and spend time making music. So yeah, find that balance. There'll be times to party. There'll be times where you can party, but you have to find that balance that'll allow you to be fresh-headed to concentrate on making music, for sure.
Right, super valuable, man. Thanks a lot for that. So next thing is, like, how do you think about social media? And is there anything you do in particular that changed the game for you?
I used to have a bit of a love-hate relationship with it. It used to really wind me up. But now I kind of just accept that the consistency of it is out of my control. The algorithm's always changing. They're introducing new things, which something that worked last month isn't going to work this month. Once I kind of became at peace with that, I was happy with it, and I understood a little bit more of it, just through trial and error. I think naturally that people are drawn to your face, and I think the Instagram algorithm seems to push clear footage of face. That's why if you see whatever DJ, if you go on their page and kind of have a little browse through, when it's a video where it's just behind the DJ of the crowd, unless it's a huge crowd, those behind the head DJ shots will perform worse than somebody that's got a multicam setup where there's different angles changing, coming on their face, like stuff that keeps people interested. In 2025, so last year, I kind of fell into this like posting strategy where I was showcasing like 5 records that Marco Carola played at Music On, or 5 records from Subliminal's back catalogue. So I had this sort of like strategy where I was literally posting every day. And over let's say a year to this date now, I tripled my followers through this kind of regular posting and reels constantly being done. Again, it was kind of like DJing, but in a video format, and only 20 seconds, where you're showcasing 4 tracks, 5 tracks within that 20, showcasing your taste in music, letting people know you're a digger, letting people know you had this sort of knowledge of styles. You could watch a video of Marco Carola or Frankie Rosado playing and you'd know the tracks. So you're constantly engaging in building your knowledge of records. But I went to DC-10 last summer. I think it was Dennis Cruz put me on the guest list because we've been exchanging music at that time. And I was backstage at DC-10. And within like a 20-minute period, we popped out from the terrace out the back, got a drink at the bar. About 3 or 4 people came up to me and told me that they loved my content. And I was like, that's interesting. like they recognized me for saying like my videos, but nobody was coming up to me saying like I just had a big track that was doing well on 360 throughout all summer. It was loads of people were playing that, but none of these people were coming up to me saying I love your new EP. They were coming up to me saying I love your content, and I was a bit like, I don't want to be known as this kind of like blogger, content, video sharing guy. So then it was like I noticed that my videos of me DJing at a party, what have been a really good party, were not getting the same reach or the same likes as what the other videos were that I was.
So almost you're training the algorithm for one thing, basically.
Yeah, the algorithm, and I did actually watch a video on that was basically saying the algorithm recognizes your best performing posts and then pushes that style of post. So I kind of had to, although I built a platform and I built my followers up, I kind of was being known as something that I didn't want to be known as. So I had to I stopped basically doing those style of videos. A lot of other people were doing them as well. So it was no longer this kind of like fresh technique.
Something really valuable in there. So, because you found a format that worked, basically. You went all in on that. You had the discipline to do that for a year, like posting every day. You reap the benefits. And also, like, it ties into something really important, which is that DJs are two things, like, in the current world, right? We're creators, right? So we make music, right? So we're DJ producer, I should say.
Yeah.
So DJ producers are two things. They're creators of music, but they're also curators of music. You present music that you're into to other people and you share that music, you know? And there's many people who've built like really big platforms out of sharing that. But I totally understand that, you know, there's more to you than just being a curator, basically.
Yeah.
And maybe the curation side of things and showing off, you know, tunes that you're into was kind of overweight, basically, in your audience. And it's maybe time to dial that back a little bit. Still valuable, though. And the followers are the followers, you know what I mean? Like, and you can then reintroduce them to other stuff, you know, further down the line, because those people are the people who follow you are going to be people who are into house music.
Don't get me wrong, like some of the biggest, genuinely some of the biggest DJs in the scene started following me within that 8-month period. Do you know what I mean? Like Seth Troxler, Enzo started following. Like they were playing my music in the past. Like they were all playing my music, but I know it's not a metric to judge things on. But in this, whilst I was going like that on social media, they were all following me, and so yes, it's that. But I say to people now when I speak about it, it's like you need to find that balance of. I do believe you need to be posting regularly, like 3 to 4 times a week. Unfortunately, you can't, in my opinion now, to be a successful artist, you've got to be obviously a good DJ, you've got to be a good producer.
Oh my God, there's so many things.
Yeah, you've got to be active on social media. Like in the 90s, you could just be a good DJ, and then it was like,
or a good producer, you could still make a living, basically.
But then it was like, no, then 2000s, it's like you got to be a good producer and a good DJ. Now it's like you've got to be active on your social media.
Yeah, not just active, but like almost like an influencer. I mean, if you look at all of the biggest names now, they're all leaning into long form. You know, YouTube. You know, Josh is doing long form YouTube. You know, Stassi's doing long form YouTube. Like people like James Hype are doing long form YouTube. You know, it's become like a normal thing now to just being followed around by cameras all the time and documenting like all of it. Like I think it's really tough on new artists to kind of master that game, but also it's like it shows that you can do it, you know, and you've proven that you can do it with like, it doesn't have to be a big budget. You don't have to have a team around you that films you. You can just find a format that works basically and do that. And then, you know, like convince that audience that you have attracted to like, you know, get into your other stuff as well, you know, especially the music.
It was giving me a chance to showcase my music as well. Do you know what I mean? And regularly showcasing new records that I built as well. But I think you kind of have to like diversify yourself with different types of content now, rather than make the mistake that I did, whereas I kind of went all in on this one type. And otherwise you're just going to get known for that.
I think the balance is key. Like, I think you've done something really cool and really valuable. To triple your following in 1 year, that's exceptional. It's a very hard thing to do. So your new record dropped last week. Tell us a little bit about this track that's out right now. I know this one's close to your heart.
Yeah, so it was made, it's a real summer record, proper like summer sound to it. It's with a fantastic Spanish vocalist called Jazz Alonso. She's not actually officially featured on it because it's different to her kind of artist project. So she was just happy to come in and do the vocals, had a live bass guitar as the bass line. It's just the saxophone on it. Oh, mate, it's just perfect for that kind of summer sound. It's on 360, which is Pete Tong's label, so it's in good hands.
How did that come about?
I've been in contact with them for a couple of years, probably. So since Breaking Dollars, my big release on Sydney Charles's label in 2024, I've been going down to their studio, doing sessions. I did the big record with them in 2025 with Simon from the Audio Bullies on the vocals. And then I've just signed a small deal with them. So I've got 3 records coming out. Wow, this is the first one of 3. And then we'll see at the end of those 3, they might trigger a sort of clause to do another 3. But they're like behind. They work with Josh Baker very closely. They run like his Baker's Dozen label, and all of his kind of like big releases. They're behind that. So, in my opinion, they
know how to promote a record.
Yeah, 100%. They're the best UK label that's not. It's not independent. It's not a major label. It is still classed as an independent, but it's not kind of ran by like a touring DJ, if that makes sense.
Yeah, like a one-man operation, basically.
Yes,
you know?
yeah, it's not like Fuse
where you just
with
get a bit of a promo and that's done. Yeah, that's really important. If you want to have records that cross into the underground, if you're doing something that's a bit special, where you're stretching yourself as a producer, how the record's promoted is really, really important. Yeah, congrats on that one. Preparing DJ set in advance, do or don't?
Do. I have a big playlist and I constantly just update that one playlist. I like the idea of knowing tracks that are going to flow together. I feel like you should prepare and you should know your records. If you're making a fresh playlist for each set, you're not going to know what's going to flow well. You're not going to know these tracks inside out. So
clearing samples, do or don't?
Don't let the label worry about it. If it's big enough, they'll find a way. And if the track's good enough, they'll find a way. So it's a big don't from me.
Don't let legalities get in the way of your creativity. Like make the record first and then worry about the rest later. Okay, making music targeted at TikTok, do or don't?
Oh, I would say don't. Just purely based on the fact that anything can get picked up on TikTok. Like the Robbie Doherty track that's gone viral. It's got no words in, it's just the lead track and the people do that mad robot kind of stiff dance to it and it blew up. Whereas I do see the argument about creating a vocal hook that would catch on at TikTok. So in my opinion, it's a don't, but I can see why if you want to. Yeah.
I think it's very hard to predict.
Yeah, that's it. You can't predict it.
Free downloads to build a following, do or don't?
Do. Yeah, definitely do. But wait until your music is strong enough because you only have this one chance to make a first impression. So yeah, I would definitely do that for sure.
Posting studio clips of work in progress that's not quite finished, do or don't?
Do, because then it's a regular form of posting, but don't be upset that the content doesn't perform very well because you're marketing it to a very small, only realistically other producers are interested in what plugins you're using or what bass line you've done. So it's a minute percentage of your followers. So so don't do it, regular chance to post. Don't be affected or upset if it doesn't perform as well as other pieces of content.
Like I feel like this is a funny one because I've done this in the past and I used to just do stories of like, this is what I'm working on now. And the stories would perform really great and loads of people were like, this is dope. Like that would perform really well, but maybe not on the main feed. Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah.
Running ads as part of a social media strategy, do or don't?
I do it when I've got a release out so I can promote people directly to the Spotify landing page. Don't do it if you're just promoting, if you've literally got nothing to promote. If you're just trying to push your account or push that you're playing somewhere, I wouldn't bother then. Now I kind of have to, I have to grant access to parties and clubs to do promo from my ads off my page to promote an event I'm playing. But just for the sake of growing my profile, no, I wouldn't say it's worth it. Not at all.
Sharing track IDs, do or don't?
I'm going to go sit on the fence and say a bit of both. Don't share it if you've been digging for hours and you found a track from the early 2000s that's an absolute banger, 7 pages in on Tracksource or Beatport. Don't share that. If it's a producer that you know or somebody that is on, you don't have to know them, but somebody that's not necessarily a huge worldwide touring DJ, and someone's asking you what's the name of that track, and you know by you sharing that could benefit that person's career, absolutely share.
Yeah,
share
I agree. Maybe not share like the classic that you've been digging on for like, you know, hours and hours and hours. Anything new that a young producer's giving you up front to play, and it's like, hey, I want to send you some music. You can help that person out by giving the track ID. Absolutely. And the final one, using AI in music production, do or don't?
I use it to strip vocals and strip samples out of old records. Take, I don't know, a saxophone from a Fela Kuti track, or a vocal from a jazz rock, whatever. Yes. Don't use what's the one that people say and you can just type it in? Is it Suno?
Suno, yeah, just to generate a track, basically. Yeah.
No, don't do that. There's no point. I think very soon we will know that you'll be able to tell that somehow that something's been made through AI. I think you'll be able to hear it.
I think it's an interesting one because I've heard other DJs talk about Suno where they're like, they generate a track basically, but then they use the stem splitter to just pull parts out of that basically. You generate something where like, hey, like I want a vocal like XYZ, or like give me an R&B track, but then you strip out the vocal and then you use that in a house track. I think that's a cool concept. But like, I've discussed this a lot with people, whether some people will come with fully generated AI tracks at some point. I don't think anybody would sign them, to be honest, right? Like, you'd be like, give me the, you'd be like, I don't know, man. Like,
you'll get found out.
You get found out eventually. And the good thing is like the scene and the house music scene is kind of, the gatekeepers of that scene are people like you and me, like, they're DJs, they're people who produce, right? We wouldn't sign that kind of stuff, wouldn't we?
Yeah.
So, okay, Grant, that is it. Thank you very much.
Thanks, mate.
And to all of our audience, thanks for tuning in again. If you want to learn how to make music, if you found this information insightful and you want more of that, come see us at www.dojomusic.net. We teach how to make house music and build artist careers every single day. Myself and Grant are on the platform teaching. Come and check us out. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I shall see you guys on the next one.